Oh, it is the national briefing with me, Kelly Nash, on Tough Talk Tuesday. I call it Tough Talk because I'm probably going to say some things that you're not going to want to hear, which is ironic since this is a show that can only work if you like hearing it. But look, it's a history lesson that maybe some of you are unaware of. I would actually say the vast majority of Americans and everybody in the media is unaware of the real history about what's going on with Russia and the Ukraine. Because, well, again, Wolf Blitzer is just one of many of the useful idiots that are on TV right now, asking questions in a way that make it completely obvious they have no idea what is going on.
Putin clearly wants Ukraine to surrender very large portions of land and agree to never join NATO. Never join NATO. What do you make of President Trump pressuring Zelensky to agree to these terms when Ukraine is the victim of Russian aggression in this war?
So there it is. That is the narrative, that Russia just wanted to take over the Ukraine for no apparent reason. Some people use the excuse that Putin just wants to put the Soviet Union back together, that he's obsessed with that idea. No. The problem began literally in the last century. Bill Clinton is a part of it. 1999, Bill Clinton makes the big NATO expansion announcement.
We have to reinforce the practical cooperation between NATO and Russia and NATO and Ukraine.
Huh? NATO and the Ukraine? That was the first shot fired across the bow, in most people's opinion. Boris Yeltsin let you know he was not happy with Bill Clinton's language. He does not want NATO involved with the Ukraine. That is not a NATO country. Nobody agreed to this. Why are you bringing them into this? And then we doubled down on it because I don't know, it wasn't that much longer. I think it was still in 1999 that we went along with NATO. And again, NATO has the moral high ground here. I admit that. There was ethnic cleansing happening in Yugoslavia. The idea was we are going to try to break up Yugoslavia so that the leadership can no longer do these war crimes against themselves. That is not NATO's job. And the way we did it was pretty horrific. 78 straight days of bombing, and they've absolutely just destroyed Belgrade. So now you've got NATO attacking and literally killing tens of thousands of civilians over more than a 2-month period. Just 78 straight days. We're bombing, we're killing. And Russia is standing there mortified that you're bombing a European capital with NATO and the United States because you do not like the leadership. And again, that really set them off. So Yeltsin is about to wrap up his career. He says, who can stand the strongest against this West expansion into Eastern Europe? And he picked Vladimir Putin and said, I give him my full support. So no surprise that he becomes your next president of Russia. So 2002, we've got George W. sitting there in the White House, and he's going to make an announcement. And a lot of people, even today, more than 20 years later, they don't understand. I don't know that I understand. Why would George W. Bush end a 30-year treaty, the anti-ballistic treaty?
Neither side would launch a nuclear attack because it knew the other would respond, thereby destroying both. Today, I have given formal notice to Russia, in accordance with the treaty, that the United States of America is withdrawing from this almost 30-year-old treaty.
So how does Russia interpret that? You now want to start having the abilities to fire missiles at us. That's the way, again, more Western aggression is the way this is being perceived. Whether it's right or wrong, you need to cool it down somehow. We are looked at as using the Ukraine the way Russians used Cuba against us. You're putting your missiles in that country. You are saying that if we make a move against Cuba, we got a war with Russia. That's the way we're looked at right now when you're talking about the Ukraine. Now, we could have chilled it all out. All of that could have been killed because remember, back in 2022, you've got Russia for months gathering all their military on the border, they're letting you know we're coming into the Ukraine soon. And it was at that time that Jeffrey Sachs, now this is, if you don't know Jeffrey Sachs, you can look him up, Sachs, professor at Columbia, but also very involved in U.S. government politics for many, many years, since the 80s. He says this.
On December 15th, 2021, Putin put on the table a draft Russia-U.S. security agreement. The basis of it is no NATO enlargement. I called the White House, begging them, take the negotiations. Putin's offered something, avoid this war. Oh, Jeff, there's not going to be a war. Announce that NATO's not going to enlarge. Oh, don't worry, NATO's not going to enlarge. I said, oh, you're going to have a war over something that's not going to happen? Why don't you announce it? And he said, no, our policy is an open door. This is Jake Sullivan. Our policy is an open door policy. Open door for NATO enlargement. That is under the category of bull, by the way. You don't have your right to put your military bases anywhere you want and expect peace in this world.
So now we hopefully have a better understanding that for the Russians, not just Putin, but for the Russians in general, they have looked at the Ukraine like Cuba is to the United States. When you start putting military there and you are threatening us. And you have already shown by blowing Yugoslavia literally off the map that you are willing to attack countries in our region for reasons outside of NATO's purview. So with that in mind, when people say that, the Ukraine's going to have to give up some land and Putin's going to be rewarded. Listen, Putin is not being rewarded because what is the Ukraine going to get? They're not going to get into NATO, and that apparently makes Wolf Blitzer very sad. But yesterday in the Oval Office, what is Donald Trump talking about? It's not NATO, but
NATO-like. I mean, we're going to give. We have people waiting in another room right now. They're all here from Europe, biggest people in Europe, and they want to give protection. They feel very strongly about it, and we'll help them out with that.
So that is the negotiation. That is how this whole war will end. Will the Ukraine be able to get a NATO-like agreement from Putin saying, hey, listen, we're not in NATO, got it, but we've got 10 countries, including the United States, that are going to come to our defense, and you understand that. If they can get that, this can, but of course, they're going to have to give up some land. So nobody's getting everything that they want. Everybody's got to give up something, but now hopefully you have a better understanding as to how we got into this mess to begin with.